Welcome to Monday Morning Coffee with Inside the Firm. Each week, our hosts will be interviewing local, regional, and national business leaders to give you an inside peek into how they lead their business to success in the ever-competitive business climate.
Welcome to Monday Morning Coffee with Inside the Firm. Today I have a very special guest. Sjofors. Otherwise known as the Price Whisperer, is a thought leader and author in everything pricing and how companies can use pricing to drive higher growth, sales, volume, and profits. He is a sought-after speaker for various conferences, appears regularly on podcasts and business radio shows, and gets routinely quoted in the financial and business press. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lance. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
100% pleasure on this end as well. Before we get into exactly what you do, I'm so interested in what you do and that that name that you have, the Price Whisperer. Tell us how you got here. Are you from a family of entrepreneurs? What drives your entrepreneurial spirit?
Well, no, I'm not from a family of entrepreneurs, but I've always been itching for something new, right? And I know that in the days before I got my first CEO job and sort of had to make all my decisions myself, I was working for companies and it was I got bored. So every time there was it was the same when I did my military service. It was every time they were asking for volunteers to do something, I raised my hand, because I was just bored. So I think that's part of this sort of entrepreneurial journey, if you like. The reason I got the name or the moniker, the Price Whisperer, is that I was simply called the Price Whisperer so many times by folks that I knew that I decided to adopt the moniker and if nothing else, because I got such a weird name that it's hard to pronounce and even harder to spell. So, but the Price Whisperer is a bit easier, right? So
I like it. Yeah, it really sticks for sure. It rolls off the tongue and all that. Yep. Well, let's get into pricing. What do you think are the top 3 pricing mistakes that companies make?
Well, first off is and maybe this is more a generic thing. It's that companies and entrepreneurs in particular, they don't think about pricing, and if they think about pricing, they turn over and go back to sleep. And so a lot of companies spend very, very little time on an effort and resource on pricing, and that shows, and that it shows as the result is that they're leaving massive amount of money on the table. And this also leads to those 3 top pricing mistakes, which is the first one is and this is probably the most common one, and that is to try to find the price of a competitor and price the same way, right? And if your competitor happen to have the price online, you can at least get a hint of in what level they are, but you don't know what deals they're making. They may be, and they may changing prices on the website 8 times a day. They may be geotagging their pricing so that where you are, you see different prices. They may set it up so that if you return to the website, you'll see a different price. So it's not a good way of doing it. And the second problem with that is that it's often the first step into the commoditization death spiral, right? Because that your price should say the same, and then suddenly you start to use the same marketing messages, and you have the same feature functions, and at that point, the lowest price win, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it saps profitability and means that companies in that spiral is they rarely recover, because lowest price wins. So that is less resources for everything, for product development, for sales, for marketing, and so forth. So pricing to a competitor, and especially if you don't do if you don't have competitors with pricing online, it's almost impossible to get competitors pricing. So and so that's a big mistake. The other one is cost plus. You take your cost of the product or service and you add sort of a fixed margin, and different industries have different rules of thumb. If you're old school type manufacturing, it's typically like you add 35% or you add 50%. If you're in retail, you add 100% typically, so you double your cost. In some industries, it's 5 times cost. In other industries, it's 10 times cost, right? The problem with cost-based pricing is that, yeah, you want to price so you don't sell at a loss, but the cost has nothing to do with the value you deliver, right? You can think about just let's say if you thought experiment here, you can go and buy a luxury wallet, for $1,000 somewhere, at a luxury retailer of sort, and you can also go to Walmart and buy a wallet for $5, right? Yeah, maybe the more expensive one cost $10 to make, and then the cheaper ones cost $1 to make. But the difference in price is still massive, right? So costs have nothing to do with the level of benefits that you deliver. And
So
the third one,
go ahead.
go ahead. No, the third mistake is simply guessing.
Okay.
Some people say market price, which is a euphemism for guessing. I mean, I know what the market is paying for this. No, you don't. You're guessing. And let me tell you a story about that. The SaaS company I spoke to a couple of years ago, and the CEO said, I decided that our price is going to be $165 a month per user. And then he continued, but I don't know if that's the right price. Maybe it should be 99. Maybe it should be 250. But 165 felt good. Is he leaving money on the table? Guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why do you think then? Why do companies make these mistakes? I mean, you started off kind of answering that question first of all of saying they're not even thinking about pricing, and it sounds like, I mean, I felt like I went through a mental exercise with you right there about the assumptions they make and then the problems with it. So, why are they just inherently making these mistakes?
Well, 2 things. First of all, business school doesn't teach out pricing in anywhere in shape near or shape or form similar to reality. They teach out pricing as an academic theoretical exercise that has nothing to do with the reality. And secondly, there's sort of a lot of people think there's magic when it comes to pricing, but it's not. It's process. It's understanding what your customers are willing to pay and then price accordingly.
Got it. So if schools aren't teaching it, then it sounds like you're teaching it. And then, so how did you get to the point of teaching it? Were you a businessman yourself? How did you get this knowledge?
So here's the story. I ran a couple of companies in Europe before I came here to the US to establish a division of a fairly large public company and ran that. And then I had another 4 CEO jobs. And we did experiments with pricing only because I was interested in the topic. And some of those experiments were very successful, meaning that, next quarter revenues are up 25%. Others were complete duds. And what I learned in business school was that academic theoretical pricing theories that had nothing to do with reality. So it didn't help us to understand why some of those experiments worked and others didn't. So 15 years ago, actually, I decided I was too old and too opinionated to be a hired gun. So I set up my own shop and I developed a process that makes every pricing experiment a success.
Amazing. Tell us about that. Obviously designed it yourself. I mean, how long of an exercise was that? I would love to know a little bit more.
Well, I realized that the key to good pricing is simply to understand what companies, sorry, what clients to a company are willing to pay.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the various ways of finding out, and I found that they were all pretty how should I say, incomplete. So what we did was that I developed a different way of measuring what customers to a company or non-customers to a company are willing to pay for a product or a service, and it's based on online polling, and it consists of a number of questions where we ask the people who are polled to equate value and quality and benefit with a price. And you can't ask people what they're willing to pay, that doesn't work,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But you can ask them how they equate price with value, and specifically what price that equates to a too low value, and what price that equates to what price is too high, whatever the value is, and then we developed our own AI software to support the analytics of these data points. And the result of all of this is that we can accurately predict sales volume, revenues, and profitability at different prices.
Amazing.
And once you have that information, it just takes 5 seconds to set the right price.
Yeah. Are you guys, are you working with do you guys work with any designers, architects, that sort of service field?
We are working, we're on project number 739. So we've done projects in all different industries, and we've done for digital agencies. We've done for, we haven't done for specific architects. We have, we worked with, we priced about 1,500 condos, right?
Mm-hmm.
We worked with people selling building material. We worked with people selling different software solutions to architects. We haven't worked with architects.
Okay.
But obviously they're a service provider, and it's a fairly commoditized business. So the way, and this is what we teach our people, is that we teach our customers, how to decommoditize themselves, so they get pricing power and can increase sales at higher prices.
Okay, got it. So one thing I've always curious about, I hear all the different kinds of numbers, where on the sales side of things, of you should feel comfortable losing 50% of the clients you go after, or 60% or 40%. Do you have any numbers that actually stick out for folks like myself? This is mainly a design and architecture podcast, so we have a lot of that in the audience.
It goes back to what I just said. I mean, let me just as an example, I got an email last week from a client we helped in back in Q2 actually, and he made the pricing changes in his company in Q3, and he said, yeah, we lost a few customers, but revenues are up 150%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there isn't a magic number. It's all about how you differentiate yourself. Another client from early this year, doing a particular kind of building material. Actually, what they do is they make ready-made panels that you can build buildings with, and they're CNC milled, so accuracy is less than an eighth of an inch, and we found that they could easily increase their prices with between 28 and 30% without losing any volume, and because they were able to differentiate themselves.
Wow.
And and I know from from the company that they yeah, it worked, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So and this again, it's all about understanding willingness to pay.
Yeah, yeah. I like the questions that you basically asked, and sort of getting some feel in a sales meeting seems appropriate like that. I'm just trying to understand how they what their
Well,
metric is for value.
yeah, first of all, I don't know. I mean, one thing that is for sure, which is I think very, very important in your particular business, is not to sell on time and material,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because time and material always leads to it always leads to negotiations of hourly time, and did you really work this much, and yada yada yada, and when you sell something, so here's the facts that as humans, when we make our buying decision, the risk that we see in making that decision is 2.25 times higher than our expected benefits, right? So as humans, as we make decisions, we are risk adverse. And when you go out and instead of selling time and material, which put the risk on the buyer, right?
Mm-hmm.
You say, this is a project and I'm going to do this project and it's going to cost this much. Then the buyer, especially if it's a corporate buyer, can budget that, and there's no uncertainty, right? And because there's no uncertainty, buyers are typically willing to pay at least 30% higher than what they would if it's time and material.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then increase your bottom line. I mean, we're seeing the fruits of that on our side right now. We shifted from that model a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
What are some pricing tips that you could give our audience that they
we
could even
can go
apply
back
today? Go ahead.
Yeah, we can go back to what you like the questions, and what you can do, especially if you're a small firm. You can go out and ask potential customers. This is not your current customers. It is not your prospects, but it's you find 25 people who could possibly become customers. Yeah, right. Now, if you can't find 25 people, then you have a bigger problems than pricing, right? And then you describe your service. You specifically describe your differentiators, which could be the type of work you do. If you talk about quality, you have to. Anybody can say we do high quality. You have to be able to quantify that quality in some way, right? And then you ask, now, Mr. Potential Customer or Mrs. Potential Customer, now that you know our services, what is a price that you think is so low that you wouldn't buy it because you think we overpromise, and won't be able to deliver, right? Okay. And once you have that, you then follow up with a question saying, and assuming the opposite, that we are going to over deliver in any way, shape, or form, what is the price that is so high that you wouldn't buy it, no matter how good we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you talk to 25 people and have those two data points, you take the average of those, right? And suddenly you have a range of where your prices should be, not below this one and not above that one.
Interesting. I like that. Yeah.
It's very simple. It doesn't mean that you're optimizing your pricing, and obviously your price should be towards the high end of that range.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can find more people to talk to, so eventually you may even have 100 people that you talk to, and this may be over a year,
Mm-hmm.
You can say, okay, the profile of these folks have a higher range than the profile of those folks, right? And then you can start focusing your sales and marketing towards a customer segment that have a higher willingness to pay than another customer segment.
Yeah. Simple. I think I already know the answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, but let me. The phraseology here is really key, right? You cannot, in any shape, form, say how much are you willing to pay.
Okay. What
You
is
know?
it? Yeah. That makes sense. Right. It's sort of, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how do you equate? What is the price that you equate with inferior quality? What is the price that is just too high, no matter what the quality?
Right. It's sort of the inverse way that of phrasing it. I think what your gut reaction is to do what you just said not to do. Right. It feels like the inverse to me, which seems more fruitful in the end.
Yeah.
I feel like you're already gonna. I know the answer to this question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Is good pricing an art or is it a science?
It's a process. It's neither.
It's
Or
neither.
if it is anything, it's science. But it's certainly not an art.
Yeah. And I assume I think I know the answer to this one too. Do you think every company can improve their pricing, or do you think some people you're learning from and because they already got it down?
Among these 700 odd projects we've done, I think on 2 occasions we have seen a company that has prices that was identical to the willingness to pay measure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So not many.
Not many.
Yeah, amazing. What is the single most effective advice that you could give the audience today?
Increase your prices.
Okay. And don't you think the caveat to that is be comfortable with?
Yeah, be comfortable increasing your prices, because if it's I mean, if it backfires, you can always lower them, right?
Right.
Now, as opposed to if you lower your prices, it's a process and it takes a long time to get it up again, So, just increase prices and be comfortable, see what happens. I have a on our website and also actually on Amazon, I've written a guide called the 7 Easy Steps to Increase Prices, with a subtitle, and keep your customers happy, right? And it's a guide. It takes 20-25 minutes to read, and it's talking about the process. And the process is all based on communication, both internal to the company and external to customers.
Yeah. One of my former bosses, so you say increase prices, does that apply to existing customers? Because one of my former bosses, he was very adamant about this. And by the way, their company went defunct, it went flat. They actually went, they split up and everything. And now we were one of their biggest competitors. But he said, it's very difficult to increase your fees with an existing client. Would you agree with that?
No, it's not.
Why not?
Because if you think that it's difficult to increase prices to existing customers, you have accepted that you are a commodity, right? And in a commodity market, the lowest price always win, right?
Yeah.
And meaning that you have to find ways of decommoditize your offering, and that can be all different things. It could be, again, it could be your particular expertise. You have expertise that few others have. It could be the speed of delivery. It could be certain guarantees. It could be anything that is valid for your particular business.
Yeah.
And for your particular customers, right? But if in fact you are if your company is being perceived as a commodity, then you get exactly that reaction that you mentioned.
Yeah, I could see that. We're running up on the half hour here, Per. This has been great. You have so much good advice, and I hope everybody in the end checks out your guys' website, and we can bring some customers to you. So first question is, knowing what you know now, and if you could go back in time to when you first started your business, what is one piece of advice you give your former self?
The first company I ran, we tried to come in with a better product at a lower price, and it was so hard. It was so hard because we came in with our better product. We were living on razor thin margins, and it meant that we could never market ourselves in a proper way, right? So we ended up struggling. And had I known what I know today, we would have come in at much higher prices, and we were actually selling that product through resellers, and resellers marked up the product tremendously, so they made a lot of money, right? We didn't make a lot of money,
right?
And so that was a mistake. The other that I would have the other issue that I probably would have learned from, based on what I know now, again, is the importance of marketing. If they, you have the saying, if you build it, they will come. No, they will not. And the very, very importance of marketing, being out there all the time, reminding your market about your existence, and specifically your differentiators.
Yeah, so important, especially for architects. I don't know if you know this, but they're very afraid of marketing. They think exactly that. If you build it, they will come, and that is, we're here to say that they are not 100%. Nope. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. Where can people find and follow you and your company?
Yeah, Lance, I appreciate and I like this conversation too. The easiest way to find me is just Google search for The Price Whisperer. You can also, the URL, thepricewhisperer.me. But Google search me, you find my YouTube channel, you find my company, you find my book, also called The Price Whisperer. Reach out if you have questions. I'd love to talk to and help companies.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for your time today, Per. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.